Hi, everyone. This is Donna Miller, President and Founder of C3 Workplace. We are glad that you can join us today for this webinar. We'll be talking about QuickBooks Online. I am joined today with Laura Melville. Hello, everybody. Who is heads up our Accounting Support Services Division. Laura is both a CPA and a QuickBooks Certified Pro Advisor. She, like myself, has really become a fan of the QuickBooks Online. And before we get started, we do these webinars on a regular basis. C3 Workplace, for those of you who may not know, we have locations in Montclair and Sparta. And for the last 20 years, it's been our great good fortune to help businesses to start and grow. And we do that by providing flexible space, back office support, and all kinds of education. So back office support certainly includes a lot of bookkeeping. Thank you, Laura. And this is one of our educational programs. You know, it's my vision to help companies to collaborate and to help them grow. And in that case, you grow, we grow, and my vision is that that growth will spill into the communities that we live in. It's pretty cool, and it's happening. So delighted to be bringing you another episode, so to speak, of QuickBooks training from C3 Workplace. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and you are all muted. You will see within your WebEx, there's a chat window and there's a Q&A section. And as Laura does the demonstration of QuickBooks, I will monitor that chat window and the questions, and we'll do our best to address all your questions, but you will see that a half hour flies by, but we'll give you some contact information and actually a couple of offers at the end of the webinar. So with all of that, let me turn this over to Laura, who's going to walk us through a little bit of QuickBooks Online. So all yours, Laura.
Hello, everybody. QuickBooks Online, just kind of a brief overview. There's 3 different versions of it, ranging in price from $9.99 to $29.99 per month. And the difference between the versions is basically access to certain tools you have and the number of reports. So depending on where you are in your business is certainly which version you would purchase.
Right, and you know, I'm seeing a question already about QuickBooks Essentials and the latest offering for self-employed. What are the differences or the benefits? This is, you know, you may have a specific answer to that question, Laura, but what we know about hosted software is the great thing about hosted software versus desktop software is with hosted, you always have the latest version. Any tweaks they do, any improvements, any upgrades, you automatically get them. The other good thing, bad thing is that there are constantly offers. So the pricing can fluctuate. Are you aware of this self-employed version?
I am. It's pretty new. I haven't had a chance, honestly, to work with it yet.
Okay.
But it is brand new. I think it only came out at the beginning of the year. So as we learn more about it, we will definitely, of course, share that.
Yeah, and QuickBooks is, I want to say, a notorious pioneer.
Very true. Very true.
For changing things rapidly. So, you know, you definitely kind of want to be in the know and checking back. And as a QuickBooks Online client, you will get a lot of notifications to what they're doing. So thanks, and that helped us to address one of our early questions here.
Sure. And you did mention just now, you know, as far as the benefits of QuickBooks Online, you don't have to do your updates. There's no manual updates. You don't need a network. It's all stored in the cloud, so you don't have a manual backup. And if you have different employees working on Mac or PC, that doesn't matter in QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, across all platforms, which is really great.
Exactly. And it has the same encryption as bank. So just be
so it's as quote-unquote safe as safe can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I guess we can take a look at the screen that I have up here right now, and I'll just give you kind of a run through at different parts of this page. The magnifying glass here is where you do all your searching. You can do a very simple search on dollar amount, date, but you can also do a more advanced search where you can search different transactions. So, for example, if you wanted to find a check that was written to, let's say, PG&E, and then you search, and then you would see all the checks that were written to PG&E. So it's just a useful tool to find transactions that you may be looking for.
So in that first search window, you could search an amount across all types of transactions?
Yeah.
That's kind
Yep,
of neat.
it is. It is. If you go back and you go to the plus sign, this is kind of like a quick create button. As you see, there's several lists here. You can do many different things from here. You can create an invoice right from here, credit memo. You could write a check from here, enter a time activity, and you could make a journal entry. So this is just a list of quick things you can do without having to go to the right-hand side over here and process them. And then the clock here, it just shows your most recent transactions. So if you stick something and you can't remember what it was or where it was and you recently did it, it would be in this list here.
Now, am I mistaken? Is that available on the desktop version?
Not this easily.
Yeah, that's really great.
It's just quick access.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the search button and searching for an amount, and maybe this isn't applicable anymore, but in the old days when I actually did bookkeeping and you do a reconciliation and you find that you're, $25 off,
right.
That'd be a great way to find any discrepancies.
Exactly. It would be very, very helpful. And then also over here on the gear, this is pretty much everything else that you didn't find in the plus sign. Under settings, this is where your preferences would be if you're used to desktop. Company settings is the same as preferences. Chart of accounts is here. All of your lists, your items, classes, you can find them here. And then certain tools, like doing a bank reconciliation, you can get to right from here. And then under your company, different options, one being manage users. And what that allows you to do is you can have different types of users log in with different rights. So you could have someone, for example, a subcontractor that can only log in to enter their time and enter their time for a specific client. Or you could have, people that want to log in and just read reports. They wouldn't be able to change anything, but they could read reports. So you would do that all in here. Interesting button here, too, is the feedback button. Because QuickBooks Online has done, very many changes in the past 6 months or so, they do request your feedback. So anything you come across that you don't like or you wish was different, you can, do this button here and submit it. And they do take it into consideration. And then one more next feature over here is the audit log. And for those of you used to QuickBooks Desktop, there is an audit trail. And assuming the audit trail is turned on, you can get some good information. But in QuickBooks Online, it's called the audit log, and it's always on. And it gives you very detailed information, way more than the desktop version. And you can see when people logged in, what they did. You can do certain filters, check activity for a certain user, see what Craig did one day. So it's a lot of information that you can track and shrink.
Yeah, I think this is even helpful, even if you're doing your own bookkeeping. Like, for instance, if you needed to look for something on a particular day. So I think the audit trail is great. Certainly in our environment where we have many people in the file, and maybe we need to figure out, hey, how did this happen? But even if you are the only person in your QuickBooks Online, this is a great tool to backtrack if you need to.
Exactly. Even if you accidentally erase something or delete something and you can't remember what it was or why it was there, you can go back to this and kind of retrack your steps.
Awesome.
So that's a pretty nice thing. And then one other little thing here on the main screen is private mode. You notice over here all your bank accounts are listed with their balances. And if you're working somewhere where you don't really want people to see all this kind of stuff, you just click the private mode.
Really clever.
And it hides that. Still shows you things you need to do, but it won't show any balances.
Okay, that assumes people might work in a coffee shop, but we can't have that.
No.
Exactly.
So, and I guess while we're here, we could go into, as you see in the bank accounts right over here, that there's 25 transactions that need attention. And the good thing about QuickBooks Online is it downloads your activity nightly. So you could theoretically get on every morning and take a look at all your activity and get it into QuickBooks without the manual entry or a Web Connect download and import. It's all really kind of right here for you.
It's automated, but you get to check and confirm.
Exactly, exactly. So, for example, right here, this is how it all came in. Nothing's been added to QuickBooks yet. It's just a list of where it's potentially going to go once you do accept it. This box here, recognize, there's 17 items in here. If you look at them, historically, based on activity you've had in the past and work you've done and rules you've set up, this, that, and the other thing, QuickBooks comes up with a preliminary list of things that they recognize that they're pretty certain goes where. So you, as the user, can kind of go through and look at this. You know, say you go down to Mahoney Mugs, and you're like, well, that's not really an office expense. That would be, say, I don't know, promotional. You can change it right there, and you continue down your list. If everything else seems like it's where you want it, rather than clicking on each one and adding, you can do a batch transaction, which clicks them all, and then you can accept all the ones you've selected, and that's going to put them right in QuickBooks for you.
That's awesome. And this is one of the things I love about QuickBooks Online is the automatic nature and the time-saving factor. So there's a huge time-saving factor because, as you can see there, of those 25 transactions, it correctly matched 17 of them, which is pretty good.
Yep.
But the other thing is this eliminates the possibility for human error, which is huge.
Exactly. And it makes your bank reconciliations very easy. No
like,
work taking
it does like nothing, yeah.
Right. It does save quite a bit of time. And as you're downloading, if you go over here, I had mentioned rules before. You go into the update screen and you do manage rules. You can set up some pretty specific rules for certain things that come in. So, for example, say you get a Verizon bill every month. You would name it Verizon. I don't know if there's Verizon in here, but and you can set up parameters. So every time, let's change it. Let's make it Bob's Burger Joint. Every time Bob's Burger Joint comes in, you want it to go to, there's the meals and entertainment. Meals and entertainment. Okay, and then you're going to save this rule. Every time anything comes through for Bob's Burger Joint, it's going to be meals and entertainment. Now suppose sometimes it's half meals and half personal. You can also put a percentage in here. That it'll be 50% meals and entertainment, and then 50% whatever the owner's draw account is set up in here. So you can make it very, very specific on how you want things
to
download.
Half time, huge time saver.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And additionally, if you have classes set up, you can set them to classes. So if it's going to be 50% meals personal, 50% meals business, you could set it up that way as well. So we'll get out of there. We'll go back to the main screen. And another new thing that actually just came out in February, for those of you who are already using this, if you go to customers and you go to your overdue, now it tells you how many invoices due you are overdue. And it also allows you the option to sort by overdue balance. So you can put the higher dollar amounts up top, make those calls first.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can do the same thing with your vendors. If you have overdue vendor bills, you click on them, and you can also sort them by the open balance. So you can see the bigger dollar amounts that you're due.
Can you sort them by? Okay, can we sort them by date or when they're due? I'm not seeing that.
No, that's a good point.
I'm sure that's on the aging receivable, the aging report.
Sure, and we could always go to the feedback button and let them know that it does not happen.
That's good.
So, and then back to the invoicing. I want to pop back here. Sorry if I'm bouncing around because I think things like share them.
That would all work.
When you create an invoice, you go up to the little plus button and you do your create invoice. And let's say we'll do it for Amy Bird. A nice option if you look, well, two things. One, if you have time entry, all of your unbilled time will show up over here on the right. So you can add it all at once. And there's your invoice created with all the time entry. But if you go down to the bottom and save and send, you'll see here you can print it if you'd like. The nice option is to save and send. You can also, I'll is the email that's going to go out to the client with a copy of your invoice. So you can customize this, you know, for each client, or you could have a standard one that goes out to everybody, and then you just send it, and it emails right from there, which is kind of nice rather than printing and folding and putting in envelopes.
Oh, gosh, yeah. We don't even do paper anymore at all.
Yeah, it makes it much easier. And there's an actual added tool that Intuit has called Billing Solution. And basically, you do the same thing you just did now. You do the save and you email it to them. But when they get that email, they also have the option to pay right there. So they open the invoice and they can pay it.
So talk to me a little bit. That's kind of interesting. Talk to me about, is that kind of like a credit card? Is that because they charge some sort of fee for that?
Intuit, well, the Billing Solutions, it all is incorporated into that fee. But what's nice about that, as a business owner, you can see when they open the invoice. You can see how many times they opened the invoice.
So no more saying I didn't get the invoice.
Exactly. Exactly. They still say that, at least you really thought.
Liar.
Exactly. So that's kind of a nice little handy touch there.
Excellent.
And then actually up at the top for not sure, I'm sure everybody's got their 1099s done.
Yeah, but that is, you know, I realize they need the 1099s are actually due, I think, February 2nd.
Correct.
But I would love for you to give us kind of a little 1099 demo, and also in the spirit of year-end, kind of give us a little tour of reports and what we maybe at year-end and on a regular basis we should be looking at.
Sure. Well, first of all, the 1099, assuming your file is set up correctly and your vendor records are accurate, meaning they have name, address, and tax ID number being either a federal identification number or a social security number, the 1099 process in QuickBooks Online is very, very easy. And you would just go, you're starting at your vendor screen, go to prepare 1099, and it really kind of walks you through it. The first thing you do is you set up your vendors. You can actually pick here which vendors you want to do 1099. You wouldn't do in this thing, but I'm just going to hypothetically. You would pick the ones that you want to spend time 1099 for. And in the same respect, you would pick the general ledger account. So, of course, you send them to anybody that receives rent that is not incorporated. And you would pick the rent account, and I'm not sure where it is in here. Rent. And then box 7, let's just say we're going to just pick the accounting one or bookkeeping, whichever we find first, right here, legal and professional fees. And in theory, your list will be much more extensive, but this is just for purposes of showing you how it sets up. And as an example right here, it's telling you that there's no federal ID number set up for your own company. Not a good thing. Your phone number is missing.
And by the way, this is their sample file, not ours.
Exactly, exactly. So long story short, all of your information would show up here. Anything, additional information that's needed would be in red. And then you go down to the bottom, and you'd be able to print using purchase forms. So it's a nice little, they call it a 1099 wizard. Just kind of follow those steps through, and it'll get you where you're going.
Right, and you know, that's something we start to look at with our clients actually in about November.
Yeah.
Because we want to review the data, because sometimes they might have hired a subcontractor for something way back in February, and all of a sudden it's November and we realize we don't have their employer ID number.
Right.
So we, with our clients, work on that starting in about November so that, you know, we're out the door by January 30th.
And a good rule of thumb with this is every time you have a new vendor, you get a W-9 from them immediately.
Absolutely.
And that W-9 will have all the information you need to prepare their 1099. And then we actually add it to the vendor files in QuickBooks.
Right. You could scan documents in QuickBooks and save them online. Now, I have a question here. Is the 1099 option available on the Essentials?
I believe so, but I'd have to be sure.
I think that's pretty fundamental. I don't think that's I think the difference between the different versions is more about multi-user and things like that.
Right, right.
Okay, excellent. And the other thing that's just, you know, fair mentioning is that the people who get 1099 has really expanded over the last year. So it's many different areas of the business, and it's people who are not incorporated, but it's also single, single owner LLCs.
Yeah.
Now, so the reality is you could have a company with an employer idea, whereas traditionally you would say, oh, I don't have to issue those 1099. Now you do. So what we're telling our clients is, when in doubt, send a 1099.
Yeah.
And I know from my perspective as C3 Workplace, I've got so many more 1099 this year because that's what people are doing. Well, I'd rather send it than be sure.
And there's no harm in receiving it if you're not supposed to.
Exactly. So the moral of that story is for 2015, look at your subcontractors now, request W-9s, and you can actually scan those right into your QuickBooks file so they're there come next January when you have to do your 1099.
Exactly.
So we only have a few minutes left, Laura, but again, in the spirit of year-end, give us a little test drive of the report area of QuickBooks Online. And again, these webinars that we do, they're brief, so we're not able to cover everything, and the fact that it's a test drive, put in your questions and we'll try and help. But I'd love to see a little bit more about the report.
Okay, so on the left, very simply go to report, and there's all sorts of different kinds. This is the recommended one. These are like the generic ones. As you use QuickBooks under frequently run, you'll see the reports you print most often. My custom report, you can set up to generate a certain dashboard of reports. So if you want a balance sheet, profit and loss, AR, AP, you could set up custom reports that would do that. They're very simple to run, but a balance sheet is traditionally given to your accountant at the end of the year. You can run it for last year, and you run your report. And there it is. You can customize it to do different things. You could show last year's results as well, and you could see the difference in how you did compared to last year, which is very handy. Not only to see how you did, but to flag any errors that might be in there. If there's a drastic change from one year to the next, you should investigate it and see why.
Right.
You can also, if you wanted to see it by month, you can change it and show the columns by month.
Oh, I don't think we ever had that on balance sheet.
And run it.
That's awesome.
So you can do that. You can do the same thing, runs with your P&L. But it's handy to go back and look if you need that kind of information.
So show us the P&L.
Yeah, same thing. Very similar in how you can show the prior year. Do last year. And then you're going to customize it. I always like to show the previous year just because I think it's a good way to analyze. And there it is. Oops, that's not last year. Sorry. There you go.
And also show them how the little hourglass allows them to go deeper. It's still the hour, like if you go to total job, click on that, any one of them.
Oh, yeah.
It takes you to the actual detail of that particular area. So as the business owner, I don't do my own books anymore. I get a monthly dashboard of reports, and this is what I tend to look at. Is I look at the, the dashboard of reports, the P&L, the balance sheet. I look at my aged receivables, my aged payables. I also look at my bank reconciliations.
Definitely.
So you look at this detail, and this I didn't prep you for, but does this file have budget set up?
Does this one? I'm not
take a peek.
Sure.
Because one of the things now, what you might have done in December, but you certainly can do in February, and it's definitely not too late, is QuickBooks, whether you are in desktop or online, you can input your budget into QuickBooks. So now, from a managing your company well, I am a big proponent of knowing your numbers. You've probably all heard me say that before. But having your budget in your QuickBooks file so that you can run budget versus actual reports is a really strong management tool.
Very much so. Very necessary.
Yeah, and I guess it's not actually, but you could see from the screen, even though the budget's not set up in this file, like everything else in QuickBooks, pretty intuitive, and you follow the instructions as you go along. And the reality is, having that budget versus actual is a really strong indication, and it's a very centering tool. The reality is, in working with our clients, we've always taken a very CFO approach to bookkeeping because we do very strongly believe in financial literacy, and certainly budget versus actual is one of those areas.
Yep.
Laura, we're kind of just about out of time. Is there anything else? One thing that I was concerned about on QuickBooks Online, one of my favorite things about the desktop version is having multiple windows open.
Oh,
how do I do that in QuickBooks Online? Because typically online programs are very flat. In fact, we didn't like QuickBooks Online for a long time, and that's
exactly. Exactly. Well, for example, say you're here in profit and loss, but you also want to pop back into your customer screen to see further detail. You just do open link in new tab, and it'll be up here for you. So there's your customers. So you can go into customers, you can go back to your P&L.
awesome.
So if you want to see vendors, you do the same thing, open the link.
Now, I'm going to put you on the spot even further.
Oh, boy.
We, as an organization, we just converted to Office 365, and a lot of it we do in the cloud. What was the thing that you did? You memorized something so they were all open?
Yep. Actually, it was very similar to this. The vendor screen, customer screen, and say a bank reconciliation screen. I made them bookmarks. And then, actually, I have a separate user set up for QuickBooks Online. And then I set these types of things up as bookmarks. So every time I open any one of our clients in this browser, those bookmarks will show up top.
So the shortcut is to create bookmarks, put them on their own bookmark bar, and then you have them open all the time. So it's, you know, another little
fun fact.
Little fun fact. Okay. So, as usual, the time flies by. We want to tell you about a couple of things that we might be able to help you with. Obviously, Laura heads up our entire bookkeeping area. We'd love to help you. We are a QuickBooks Online reseller, and we, as an organization and as a client of ours, we pass along a 25% discount off of the retail prices. So if you're considering QuickBooks Online, that might be something that we can help you with. When we work with clients, it could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be quarterly, it could be an occasional check-in. We highly recommend that you get some professional input into your bookkeeping process. To that end, tomorrow, I believe, in Sparta? Okay, tomorrow in Sparta or by phone, we have what we call Office Hours Ask the Expert. So if you would like a 25-minute complimentary consult or assessment with Laura, how lucky are you, just go to our website event page and you will see an event for tomorrow's office hours, and there are only a few slots, so if you want to do that, you really need to do that right away. So A, we've got a discount for you on QuickBooks Online, and B, we've got a complimentary consult for a few people tomorrow via phone or face-to-face in Florida. So with that, we're going to wish you happy bookkeeping. We'd love to be part of the process of actually making it happy for you. Wish you a great day. That's it for today on this webinar. We do these twice a month, and we hope to see you on the next one. Laura, it was great. Thanks very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
All right, everybody, have a great day.